And good day, everybody. This is Z Marcel Portune. Welcome to another edition of the Sports Inquirer Show. We're recording this on December 17th, 2019. We're smack dab in the middle of the holiday season. Hope all of you are had a good Thanksgiving. If you're listening to us for the first time since then, are enjoying a good Christmas campaign and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and all the other denominational or non-denominational, if you don't celebrate any of those holidays, just hope you're having a good December. But we've had a very active period ourselves here on the Inquirer and very excited about what's coming up over the next few weeks. But we had to catch up and check on everything that is going on in the world of sports today. We have a jam-packed show for you as always. We're going to break down the Week 15 of the NFL season, do a little bit of a recap and the Gridiron Blitz and break down what happened there. We're going to delve into Georgia college athletics in the technical state of Georgia athletics, talk about the college football scene, a little bit of Georgia Tech volleyball, Georgia State men's basketball, and some other news and notes around the state of Georgia. And then finally, we'll go to the Miscellaneous Department, when we'll discuss Atlanta United. They made some moves over the past week or so. We'll discuss that. The College Park Skyhawks, they have a matchup tonight against the Windy City Bulls on December 17th. We'll discuss that matchup and maybe some other news and notes in the world of sports as we find fit. As always, want to follow everything that we're doing, head to the mothership, to sportsinquirer.net, premier site for news and notes in the world of sports. You'll find all of the content from our Georgia State basketball interviews with Rob Lanier, the head coach, and some of the players from the Skyhawks, with the head coach Noel Gillespie, and the players as well from, let's see, we have Brandon Goodwin, we have Kat Barber, we also have Charlie Brown Jr., so just go to the site and check all of that stuff out. And also Georgia Tech volleyball with Coach Collier, discussing some things there. So those full interviews are up on our site, and you can also find them through our social media platforms on Twitter and Instagram. Just search Sports Inquirer. That's all one word. Make sure you follow us on those platforms. You give us a like, or you follow us, subscribe, whatever way you want to say it, and you can get an update on everything that we're doing. Whatever we post on our site, we promote it through there, so we greatly appreciate it if you did that. Also on Facebook, head to two of our sites, The Sports Inquirer as well as Sports Inquirer. So you have two sites on Facebook that you can check us out at. And then finally, subscribe to us on YouTube and SoundCloud under The Sports Inquirer. And also on iTunes as well. You can go there, subscribe to us, and get all of the content that we keep putting up, from our exclusive interviews to pressers and everything in between. We're going to take our first break of the show, and when we come back, we're going to go into NFL discussion in the Gridiron Blitz here on Sports Inquirer Show. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Sports Inquirer Show. Marcel Portute here with you. And let's talk about Week 15 of the NFL that just took place. The playoff picture is really coming into form in both conferences, the AFC and the NFC. So as we recap each of the contests, I'll give you kind of a look at where the playoff standings are and the perspectives or the prospects of the playoff teams. Just the main overarching event that took place in Week 15 was that Green Bay and San Francisco each qualified for the postseason. Now, both those squads missed the playoffs in 2018, which means the streak of 29 consecutive years continues of at least 4 teams qualifying for the playoffs in every season that were not in the postseason the year before. And Buffalo, with their victory over the Steelers on Sunday Night Football, were able to make the playoffs as well. So that means we have 5 teams that were not in the postseason last year that are going to be in the playoffs this year. So it just shows the complete transition of the NFL and the way things are. We'll start with the AFC. Baltimore was able to defeat the Jets 42-21 on Thursday Night Football. Ravens were able to clinch their second consecutive AFC North Division title. Lamar Jackson with 5 touchdowns in total, continuing to make that MVP push. And you got to figure that they are now a major threat to get the home field advantage in the AFC for several reasons. One, in New England, the Patriots did win 34-13 over Cincinnati, so now they actually clinched their playoff berth. So the Patriots have been in the playoffs 11 consecutive years, which is the longest streak in NFL history. And Tom Brady threw 2 TD passes, so he now has 17 seasons of at least 20 TD passes in a year, because that brought him to 21. So he surpasses Peyton Manning, who had 16 seasons of that mark for the most in a career. So they were able to get some of those benchmarks, but Brady threw for less than 200 yards. you can see the weapon struggling. Edelman, he has his issues, and the reports are now that he's ailing all over and that he may sit out the last 2 games of the regular season. They're trying to get their rookie receiver from Arizona State, get him involved in the scheme. But a lot's going on there that they're trying to work out. But the Ravens, they have a 1-game advantage over the Patriots with 2 to go. Plus, they have the head-to-head matchup advantage because the Ravens were able to defeat the Patriots at home. So the Ravens now sit at 12 wins, 12-2. So they are 1 game ahead of the Patriots and 2 games ahead of the Chiefs and the Bills. And we'll get to those 2 teams in a moment. So we're looking at Baltimore right now, really securing that top overall seed. Pretty much have to drop their last 2 games, and the Patriots win both their games to get that home field. That's not going to happen. And the reason that the Patriots may not even win the division and actually have to be a wild card team, which is unheard of in the Bill Belichick era for the most part, is the Bills are able to defeat the Steelers 17-10 on Sunday Night Football. So that brought the Bills total to 10 wins. So they sit 1 game behind the Patriots, and they play each other this week upcoming. And we'll preview that next week or this upcoming week on another show. Now the Patriots do have the advantage of home. They were able to defeat the Bills earlier this season in Buffalo, and they're hosting the Bills this week. So they do have that advantage. But if you look at their other tiebreakers, they don't have a tiebreaker over the Chiefs, who are 10-4, and Kansas City was able to win their home game 23-3 over the Denver Broncos. Pat Mahomes, 340 yards passing, 2 TDs in the middle of a snowstorm, just showed his greatness. He now has 17 career games with at least 300 passing yards, so he's tied with Kurt Warner for the most in the first 3 seasons in a career. Andrew Luck had 19 such amount of passing yards and 300 or more in his career. And you got to remember, Mahomes didn't even play his rookie year. He started that final game of the regular season, and so he is really playing on 2 years instead of the standard 3, even though he's a third-year player. Kelsey had 11 receptions for 142 yards, so he now has 1,131 yards for the season. He is the first tight end in NFL history with 4 consecutive seasons of 1,000 receiving yards or more. So he joins Tony Gonzalez, Rob Gronkowski, and Jason Witten as the only guys with 4 career seasons of at least 1,000 receiving yards in their whole career. And Kelsey's done it 4 years in a row. So that's where he's seeing the Chiefs are rolling right offensively. One more note is a Tyreek Hill. He had 2 TD catches in that win over the Broncos, and he has 21 career touchdowns of at least 40 yards. So he tied Jerry Rice for the most in NFL history through the first 4 years of a career. Hall of Famers Bob Hayes, 24, and Randy Moss, 23. Only those 2 guys have more right now than Tyreek Hill. So saying all of that, you look at the scenario of the Chiefs. They have 10 wins, and if they've already clinched the division as well. So the Patriots, they may not even get that second seed and get the bye that's so important to them, and that they've been able to ride through most of their current success. So they may not even get that. So you add all of that up, very interesting times for New England. And that really takes care of those matchups. And there's some other intriguing scenarios as well. So we talked about the East and the West. The Chiefs have already won that. The North, the Ravens have clinched that one. And then there are really 2 more races of interest. You have the AFC South, and the Texans and Titans met face-to-face this past week. Houston was able to emerge with 24-21 road win against the Titans. So now their records are, the Texans are 9-5 and the Titans are 8-6. Now those 2 teams face off in a regular season finale, but obviously that was a huge win for the Texans to take a hold of that. And then if you look at the final wild card spot, we're looking at the loser of the AFC South. The Titans right now have 8 wins, and the Steelers have 8 wins. So it's going to come down to those 2 final teams, because obviously the Buffalo Bills have already clinched that once. The first wild card spot would be the 5 seed, and the Patriots might be the 5 seed, as crazy as things are. So that's what you're looking at overall there. And let's see any other notes from the AFC before we move on to the NFC. Yes, see, we talked about Kansas City. And yeah, so really an overarching theme as well. We talked about the new playoff teams from 2019 that didn't make it in 2018. Not a lot of drama when you look at the final set of games over the next 2 weeks. I think now seating positioning is intriguing, but as far as the teams, the winner go home scenarios, we're not going to have too many of those, at least in the AFC, outside of that AFC South loser between Tennessee and Houston, along with the Steelers. And the rest of the AFC, Arizona was able to defeat Cleveland 38-24. Jacksonville beat Oakland 20-16. Final game, home game for the Oakland Raiders as we know them. They're moving to Las Vegas next year. So that's the AFC playoff picture, pretty cut and dry. NFC, pretty much the same as well. We'll start Green Bay. They were able to defeat Chicago 21-13. That gave them, they clinched the playoff berth. So they're in the playoffs for the first time since 2016. The Bears are eliminated from postseason play. Minnesota was able to defeat the LA Chargers 39-10. So they kept pace with the Packers. And if you go to the NFC, pulling up my statistics here. Yeah, so you're looking at right now the Packers have 11 wins. They're 11-3. Vikings are 10-4. So loser of that division is going to be the second. Is going to be one of the wild card teams. They face each other late. They face each other this week as well. So the winner of that contest will secure themselves, probably put themselves in the driver's seat to win the division, especially if the Packers are able to get that road win against the Vikings. And then you move on down the line. Seattle was able to keep pace with San Francisco. They were able to win at Carolina 30-24. Russell Wilson, 286 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 137.7 passer rating. So now Wilson, who's currently in the 8th year of his NFL career, has 86 career wins. So he's tied Tom Brady for the most regular season wins by a quarterback through the first 8 seasons of his career. He's got 2 more games coming up, so he can easily surpass that. Christian McCaffrey, you have to give a note of him as well in that loss. Had 175 scrimmage yards, and he had 88 receiving yards and 87 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns overall. So you look at his numbers, he has at least 75 rushing, 75 receiving yards, and he tied Walter Payton for the 3rd most games of that in his career. He has 6. Only Marshall Faulk with 11 and Priest Holmes at 9 have more in his career. And he also broke the mark of most receptions by a running back in a single season. So because he had because right now he has 107, and he had 94 in 2019. So right now he is the only running back besides Larry Centers to have at least 90 receptions in multiple seasons in NFL history. So a note on McCaffrey, who's, I think him and Derrick Henry are putting themselves in all-pro positions. And we'll do an all-pro team eventually when the regular season ends. But I've been keeping an eye on that because outside of Lamar Jackson, probably a slam dunk at the quarterback position, there are a lot of interesting battles. And I've been debating between Dalvin Cook and McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, as far as the running backs go. And only 2 of those guys are going to make that list. But McCaffrey, even though he's a team that's not going to be in the postseason, lost his head coach, individually he's having a stellar campaign. But going back to the playoff picture, that gave Seattle amount of victories of... They now have 11 wins, and the 49ers have 11 wins as well, following their surprising loss. Probably, I won't say upsets of the season, but if you look back on this campaign overall, it's going to be one of the 5 more surprising losses of the year. They lost at home to the Atlanta Falcons 29-22. Now, the 49ers did clinch a playoff berth despite that loss, but if you look at the reasons they lost, main reason, Julio Jones went off for the Falcons. 13 receptions, 134 yards receiving, 2 TDs. He now has 11,881 receiving yards in his career. So he's in year 9, and he just surpassed Torrey Holt and Jerry Rice for the most by a player through the first 9 seasons of his career. And he also has 780 receptions through the first 9 years. So he has the 4th most catches all time through the first 9 years of career. Only other guys are all future Hall of Famers or current Hall of Famers. Marvin Harrison Antonio Brown, wow, we haven't heard that name in a while, and Torrey Holt. So you gotta give credit there. But if you look at that win, and I watched that contest, it's one of those deals with San Francisco, and Kittle had a big performance for them. The tight end had career high 13 receptions, 134 receiving yards. So he surpassed Mike Ditka for the most receiving yards by a tight end through the first 3 years of his NFL career. So you look at those numbers, he's the only vertical threat for the 49ers. And Coleman and the other running backs weren't able to really get off in that contest. So the Falcons defense, the front seven, did a solid job in that end. Kittle got his numbers, but San Francisco just was not able to get it rolling. And the Falcons, as I said, Jones had a very big game. And that last sequence was very intriguing, especially that last touchdown pass. Typical Falcons season. I say this covering them here in Atlanta, which is the home base of the Sports Inquirer. You start the season 1-7. Things are looking bad. Then you win 2 games on the road against New Orleans and Carolina. Then you get on another losing streak. And now you're able to defeat the 49ers, who some, including myself, think are the best team in the NFL. And you're losing draft position as well. Now, they probably weren't going to be as bad as the Bengals, who are securing their top spot. Joe Burrow may as well just look for some land in northern Kentucky or southern Ohio, wherever he wants to live on the border. So he's going to be a Bengal. But if you look at this 2 through 5 spot, there's some very intriguing spots there. Basically to get Chase Young, which is the Falcons' desperate need to get a good pass rush. But they're out of that running because they keep winning games. And it's been a debate locally here in Atlanta about should they have tanked the final half of this season to not only get better draft positioning or to make the decision easier to not retain the services of Thomas Dimitroff, the general manager, and Dan Quinn, the head coach. But I think they're going to retain those guys for several reasons. One, I don't think Arthur Blank, the owner of the Falcons, wants to go through a general manager and head coaching search. They're exhaustive. They take a long time. He already knows what he's getting from Quinn and getting from Dimitroff, and already knows what they bring to the table. Now, what they bring to the table is not very good, in my opinion, because how can you go from being 1-7 to now 5-9? That's unacceptable. And you look at the constant, they've had multiple losing streaks of 5 or more games during the Dan Quinn era. And you look at the mistakes on both sides of the ball. They had several special teams mishaps during that contest against San Francisco. You break all of that down, it's not a tenure that's worth retaining. But you're going to look at it from the last few games. Like, look, we've been able to win division games at New Orleans. We're able to win games at Carolina, one at San Francisco. And you look at the end of the year, they host Jacksonville and go to Tampa. They can easily win those 2 games and end up 7-9, and you go from a midseason firing, which I thought should have happened, to avoid this type of scenario, to ending the season on a relative winning note or with a few victories, potentially a winning streak. So the debate's been through all of that. I personally think they should have been let go midway through the season, especially after the Tennessee loss at home that was bad, losing at Minnesota, that was a bad loss. Just go down the line. At Indianapolis, very uninspired effort there. But you add it all together, they're going to stick around. And just win at San Francisco is going to keep that going. The only other races as well, we talked about Green Bay and Minnesota. The lackluster, uninspired race for the NFC East. Philadelphia was able to beat Washington 37-27. Note on that match, Adrian Peterson, 66 rushing yards and a touchdown. So he now has 110 rushing TDs. So he's tied Walter Payton for the 4th most in an NFL career. So you can't ignore that. And he also surpassed Curtis Martin for the 5th most rushing yards in a career. So note from Washington in that contest. But Philadelphia, they currently have 7 wins. Dallas was able to defeat the LA Rams at home 44-21. So they have 7 wins as well. It comes down to this final. Well, they face each other this week. Dallas goes to Philadelphia. Both teams have 7 wins. Only one team's going to make the playoffs. you got to figure Philadelphia at home would be a favorite, but as far as at home being at home, but on the talent is still there with the Cowboys. I'm not going to make my pick yet, but I think this is a coin flip. I can hear arguments from both sides of it, but whoever wins this division, at most, is probably going to have 8 wins. They might get to 9, but that's going to be the only team coming from that division. And let's see, other news and notes. The Cowboys were able to, talk about Cowboys, the Giants able to defeat the Miami Dolphins 36-20. Eli Manning, multiple interception game, but still got the win. His career record's back to 500. That should have been, he walked off the field last home game of the season for the Giants, got a standing ovation, deserved in that regard. He just needs to retire, enjoy his time with the family, and keep it moving there. Tampa able to defeat Detroit 38-17. Jameis Winston, career high, 458 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, only 1 interception. So he is the first player with at least 450 passing yards in 2 consecutive games. And the first time in NFL history we've seen that mark. So he has 5 games so far this year with at least 375 passing yards. So he joins Peyton Manning and Drew Brees as the only QBs with 5 or more games of 375 yards in a career. So you look at him, Bruce Arians does a very good job with him. He still intercepts the ball. That's just in his nature. You're not going to be able to completely get rid of that aspect of Jameis Winston's game. But they're going to sign him, or they may franchise him, but he's coming back to Tampa for another year, which I thought would be no chance of that happening coming into this campaign. But he's earned his way into getting another year in Tampa. So those are our thoughts on the NFL and just recapping everything that happened there. We're going to take another break, and when we come back, we're going to break down some Georgia athletics, college athletics, in the technical state of Georgia here on the Sports Inquirer Show. All right, welcome back to the show. Marcel Pertut here with you. Let's break down some stuff in technical state of Georgia athletics. As far as college football goes, pretty straightforward. Situations this past week, Joe Burrow seized the Heisman, was able to win by a record-setting margin, the largest amount of first-place votes, and things like that. He was on 96% of the ballots. Those 4% who didn't put him on the ballot should have their Heisman vote revoked. Should have their Heisman votes revoked. I don't understand how you cannot have a guy who is top 5 or even leads the nation in several offensive categories as a quarterback in a premier conference in college football. A lot of great moments, undefeated squad, and he doesn't even. Now, if you want to argue maybe Jalen Hurts or Chase Young, who may be the best player in college football, I'll give you that. But to not have him on the ballot is unacceptable. But he still won it. That's the important thing. So we're about a week and a half away from the semifinals of LSU versus Oklahoma and Clemson versus Ohio State. And locally, other teams preparing. We have the Georgia Bulldogs preparing for the Sugar Bowl. Georgia State's preparing for the Tucson Bowl, and they're going to be an Arizona Bowl playing in Tucson. So we'll be heading down there over the next few days to go over that stuff with Coach Elliott and the players. Signing day, the early period, is tomorrow on December 18th. So our next show will have some thoughts of where players are signing, and hopefully have some audio and video from Georgia Tech and Georgia State about their signing date exploits. So make sure you check out the site to see all of that. Georgia Tech volleyball is working their way through the NIVC tournament. They were denied a spot in the NCAA tournament, but they've been able to turn that around and turn the negative into a positive, getting home wins over Alabama A&M, over Liberty and TCU in the tournament. They're facing South Dakota today on December 17th. So make sure, I will be watching the game and seeing what happens there. We'll get some post-match commentary of when that takes place. Georgia State Georgia State basketball, moving around real quickly here. They're able to defeat Mercer 73-61 on December 7th, improving their mark to 6-3 on the season. Damon Wilson and Corey Allen each had 16 points in the contest, and were able to catch up with Coach Lanier about that win and just things overall with the team. So here is Rob Lanier on the victory.
Defensive energy and focus against a team that's a really good execution team that runs some tough concepts, and they had 2 really good scorers that we had to focus on, and they really take advantage of defensive mistakes, and we were on edge. Coach Kreider had a great scout put together for those guys. Our scout team did a great job simulating some of their actions, and we did a good job taking care of some of the things that were going to be key. And we wanted to make them get beyond their first or second option, and then finish possessions. And we didn't give up stuff on their first and second options. So that was really critical for us, and we were locked in. And we went into the half with a good defensive effort and extended that into the second half, which was great. It certainly was a good game in that regard. And then, again, until we start to do it on a consistent basis, we won't know whether or not they've gotten it. And it's an ongoing process. You just got to be able to stay locked in game by game, day by day.
So that was Coach Lanier talking about the win over Mercer. And also discussed the team with a balanced offense, multiple players averaging double digits in scoring. So we discussed that with them and just some other things that he has seen through the early portion of this season. So let's hear from Coach Lanier about the balanced offense and how the team has looked in the first 9 games of the season.
We have 4 guys averaging double figures.
Sure, yeah.
So we've been relatively balanced, and we're averaging 80 points a game on the year. So it's not like we're relying on 1 or 2 guys. There have been different guys that stepped up at different times. What we've got to do is get more and more disciplined with our execution. And so that's been a focus the last several days, and we're starting to see some of the fruits of that focus, and we just got to continue to get better.
And speaking of this time period, you have 12 days, I believe, in between games and guys doing their academic finals for the fall semester. How do you keep the guys sharp on the court? Because that's a long time between games, but also make sure that they take care of their academics during this holiday period.
Yeah, I think it's good for us. We've had a pretty rugged opening season. We played our first 5 out of 6 games away from home, and we had 2 really tough home games, and then we had to go on the road again. So this is a welcome time, for these guys to get a little bit of mental clarity, to take care of some of their responsibilities academically, and then for us to use this practice time effectively to get better at a much needed time for our team, because there's so many things we need to improve on. So I don't think staying sharp is a problem at all. We got a competitive group. It's just a matter of competitively, they're going to be ready to go, but execution-wise, we need to get better, and so we need this time to work on some things.
And they'll be back on the court on December 19th against Texas Arlington in the Sun Belt opener for the Panthers. And let's hear from Coach Collier. I'll go back to that. And for some of you that may have not heard the comments earlier about not making the NCAA tournament, it's about 2 weeks old, but it still kind of pertains to what we were speaking about earlier, about Georgia Tech volleyball. So here is Coach Collier talking about not making NCAAs, and how they've been able to turn that around and look forward to the NIVC tournament, which they're currently in the finals of. So let's play that before we move on to the Miscellaneous Department.
I think we were definitely disappointed. We respect the committee's decision, but we also know the way we were playing, the level of volleyball that we were playing, and we still feel like we were deserving of an opportunity to compete at that level for the things that we did throughout the season. But some of that stuff is outside of our control. I felt like we really tried to maximize the things that we could control as much as possible, especially towards the end of the year. And we did some great things, and just some things happened that Saturday. I felt that kind of hurt some of the bubble teams that were in there, but I think for us it's a lesson learned. Obviously our goal is to control our destiny a little more, so not to be in the position where we're in the mercy of a committee to decide whether or not we make it to the tournament. So we learned a lot from it, but we were not letting it hold us down for too long. Obviously we were upset that Sunday night, but I think that we hit the gym back on Tuesday and we're ready to compete and keep moving forward. And I think that we trust on the things that we're doing here. We see it every day. We've seen it with all the ACC recognition and how we finished in our conference and how we competed all year, not only winning but felt like we dominated a lot of the people that we played, and so we definitely know that we're playing some good volleyball, and that we're going to be a great program in the future and continue to get better.
I was watching it like everyone else, and social media. First, you have a very passionate fan base. That was
good job. Thank you. Everybody.
Yeah, they're very questioning just the process and the selections, how it goes. But I also didn't see really, I'll say negativity, but not much criticism from the players or from yourself or things like that. So how does that say about the team that you got a negative news?
We're respectful of their decision, whether we agree with it or not. I mean, we have to respect it, and we got to continue to do our things regardless. We believe in the vision of our program. We believe in the volleyball that we're playing. We believe in the things that we're doing, and I think that we just got to continue to show that with our actions. There's not too much we can control. I feel like basketball and some other sports have gone beyond the RPI and have, kind of looked at selections and looked at their tournament. And I hope volleyball continues to be forward-thinking with that, and they're really analyzing their way of deciding things and making sure that they get the best teams that are playing the best volleyball into the tournament. And obviously, there are some great teams in the tournament, very well deserving. So it's hard to say that the teams that are there didn't deserve to be there. They all did, but so did we. And so I think it's a learning opportunity on how we make ourselves better. But it's reassuring that we can be there. It's reassuring that the things that we're doing are working, that we're playing some good volleyball. And so we're going to continue to control our controllables and be respectful of the sport and all the other opponents that are there. And I mean, we hope for a great tournament. And, we got DNIVC now that we're going to compete in and really continue to just get better and enjoy playing at O'Keefe.
And they have done that. So they've been able to do that. And as I said, they've gotten some big wins at home throughout the tournament and are in South Dakota facing USD today on December 18th. So we'll have a recap of that match after it happens. When we come back, we're going to go into the final segment of the show, Miscellaneous Department, here on the Sports Inquirer Show. All right, Sports Inquirer here with you, final segment of the show, Miscellaneous Department. We'll start with the College Park Skyhawks. They were able to look to extend their winning streak to 4 games with the home win over the Windy City Bulls on December 17th. We're able to speak with Coach Gillespie about the team's winning streak and what they've been able to do well over the past few contests.
Again, looking at our schedule, first 12 games, loss, win, all the way up until tonight. So we talked about taking care of business, winning at home, beating a division opponent. So we're 1-1 right now in Capital City. 2 in a row at home and 2 in a row overall. Just in the locker room, it's a good feeling. So let's keep it going. Winning is fun. Winning is contagious. Winning tastes good. And let's get thirsty with winning. Let's get greedy with it and try to get on the next one. So got Greensboro, which is another division opponent. Played them once already, but we know they're going to be ready. So 1 game at a time, win 2, and then get the next one.
And they were able to win that game against Greensboro, which took place last week. So we're going to be heading down there to the Greatway Arena in College Park, Georgia, for their match tonight against the Windy City Bulls on December 17th. Looking forward to that. Atlanta United's made some news over the offseason, starting with the permanent transfer of Emerson Hyman to Atlanta from Bournemouth. Jeff Larentowicz returns to the squad. Alec Khan as well, the backup goalkeeper. He is the Decatur native, is back with Atlanta. And Atlanta was able to acquire Brooks Lennon, the defenseman, in a trade with Real Salt Lake. So the roster you look at as of today is 3 goalkeepers, Brad Guzan, Alec Khan, and Brendan Moore. Remember, Moore got a lot of time with Atlanta United too. They usually carry 2 goalkeepers on the main team, on the main roster. So both those guys, so all 3 of them will probably at some point see some time with the first team. The defenders, 7 right now, with George Bello, George Campbell, Franco Escobar, John Gallagher, who technically is with the team. He's with Aberdeen with the transfer, playing in the Scottish Premier League. Brooks Lennon, who we just mentioned earlier, Leandro Gonzalez-Perez, and Miles Robinson. Obviously, a spot opened up with the retirement of Michael Parkhurst, so we'll see what happens there. Florian Pogba, he was not retained as well, so there are some open positions there. As far as defense go, midfielders, Mo Adams, Ezekiel Barco, Andrew Carlton, Luis Fernando, Julian Gressel, Emerson Hyman, Jeff Larentowicz, and Eric Remedi. So a good amount of returners there. You look at Carlton and Fernando; those guys may be candidates to play a lot more with United too, or they may be, especially with Carlton, maybe loan prospects. I wouldn't be, and going back to the goalkeepers, I wouldn't be surprised to see Moore or Khan be on loan as well with a team. We'll see what happens there. And then the forwards, you have Lagos Kunga, Joseph Martinez, Pity Martinez, Dion Pereira, and Tito Villalba. Kunga is the name of interest on there. Obviously, the other four saw plenty of time with the first team. Kunga's a guy that has dealt with some injuries up and down between the first team and second team. Seeing him currently on the roster with the first team, I don't know where his spot is as far as that goes, but that's the roster right now. Still in the middle of the offseason. Big month will be January for two reasons. One, that's when the MLS draft takes place, but also that's when the international transfer window opens up next. So all these players are on teams, but remember last year we saw the transfer of Miguel Almiron kind of around this period going to Newcastle United from Atlanta this time last year. So all the rumors you hear about Barco and the Martinez's, Joseph and Pity, even Tito Villalba are still in play. So right now that's the roster, but I highly doubt this is going to be the final roster as we head towards the end of the offseason and when the new season kicks off in February with Champions League play. And speaking of CONCACAF Champions League play, Atlanta's opponent was announced in the draw. It's going to be Honduran club FC Motagua. I hope I'm saying that right. But they're going to face off there. That's going to be their first round opponent in the round of 16 for the Champions League. Remember, Atlanta is in Champions League due to winning the 2019 Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. So they are going to be in that major competition. So see what happens there. Let's see, trying to think of what else is going on. I didn't see too much of the President's Cup. The time difference really messed with me as far as watching that contest. Sounded like it was really good. The United States was able to defeat the world team to bring the cup back to the United States. I know that they were trailing by quite a few points heading into the singles round, and led by Tiger Woods and his big charge as winning his individual match. The U.S. was able to get the cup and make a comeback there. That's just bad timing as far as not only the time difference being in Australia. Now, if it was in Europe or in South America, it would be closer to the United States time period as far as the time zones. But Australia is a tricky one. That is a bad one. And trust me, as someone who watches Japanese wrestling on the regular, whenever you get to Asia and Australia, towards those two continents, on the Eastern time zone, that's a rough go. So I didn't see too much of the live matchups. I saw a little bit of the highlights and maybe some taped footage, but that was a big win there. Speaking of Japan wrestling, we will be bringing back the verbal submission. I'm trying to work it into this upcoming weekend, but a lot of news in the world of New Japan Wrestling, WWE, All Elite, or wrestling. Let's see, NWA. They had a big pay-per-view that took place this past weekend here in Atlanta. So a lot going on in the wrestling world. I will make sure to try to do a show dedicated specifically to that. As far as mixed martial arts, had a big pay-per-view as well in the UFC. So a lot to touch on there. And I think any other news and notes in the world of sports. We want to do some more NBA. I know that's a big topic. And we'll do also some Major League Baseball. We didn't touch on it this show specifically because there's still some potential free agent signings, but we know the biggies. Gerrit Cole, the pitcher, going from the Houston Astros to the New York Yankees. When you throw 9 years of $300+ million, you knew the Yankees really wanted him. It was hard for him to say no to that offer. I really thought he'd be on the West Coast. Born and raised in California, specifically Southern California, played college ball at UCLA. That seemed to be the desire, and that was this. Everyone was saying that's what he wanted to do. But when the Yankees are ready to roll and want to sign somebody, and when the Steinbrenner family sends Brian Cashman and the crew on a jet to California to get their man, and money is not an option or not an issue, they're going to get their man. So that's what you saw happen. Strasberg re-signing with the Washington Nationals, not super surprised with that deal. And let's see, Anthony Rendon going to the Angels of Anaheim. That's a lot of money, but you got to support Trout. And maybe Otani can get his arm right and get healthy at Tommy John surgery. He'll be in the rotation. Bumgarner would have been a good fit there. And I'm surprised that he really didn't go there. He ended up signing with the Arizona Diamondbacks in that regard. But overall, you look at the signings, not too surprising. And a lot of money being spent. Unlike this time last year, where we were in the free agency hole because Bryce Harper and Manny Machado did not sign with the Phillies and the Padres until the new year after the owners' meetings. There was a hold of that. And furthermore, you had Dallas Keuchel and Craig Kimbrell not even signing when the regular season started, waiting until the 2019 campaign started. Much better as far as getting news and getting some free agency signings. Still some interesting prospects out there, or players, I should say. Josh Donaldson has been a name we've heard a lot here in Atlanta, the Atlanta Brave, trying to get that extra fourth year most likely in his contract. So we'll see what happens there. Probably be an announcement within the next week or so, I would think. Even when Christmas comes, that tends to be a time when guys don't sign because it's the holiday season. So we'll see what happens there. Let's see. And then Rue's out there, pitcher from the Dodgers. So a lot going on there as far as free agency goes. So we keep track of all of that. And that's going to conclude today's show. Thanks for listening. As always, want to follow everything that we're doing, head to the mothership to sportsinquirer.net. Go to our social media platforms and on Twitter and Instagram under Sports Inquirer. That's all one word. Go to our Facebook pages, The Sports Inquirer and Sports Inquirer. And finally, subscribe to us on YouTube and SoundCloud under The Sports Inquirer. Until next time, good fight and good night.